So the funny thing about doing a review for Immortals Fenyx Rising is that you would think after having Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion not come out very long ago that they wouldn't actually come through with a third colossal game. And Ubisoft said, no, fuck you and your feelings. That's exactly what they planned on doing. And so I wanted to say thank you so much to Ubisoft for giving me a review copy of Immortals Fenyx Rising. This is Vanessa, aka Pleasantly Twisted, aka I'm PT, coming at you with another wine cellar review. A lot of people have said, oh, so it's pretty much Ubisoft's Genshin Impact or the Greek version of Breath of the Wild, and that's not necessarily true. While they do share a lot of commonalities, similarities, what have you, these are distinctly different and unique games, and I think it's very unfair to kind of water it down and say, oh, it's just like those games, but with a different type of polish or anything on it. That's not what we want to go for here. Immortals Fenyx Rising is a conquest where you play as Phoenix and you're out to, initially you say you want to save your brother because you came in on a boat that got caught up in a storm. It capsized and you just want to help out your brother, and it turns into this very elaborate and large quest to save the Olympian gods. You find out over time that this asshole named Typhon comes through, decides that he hates everyone, especially Zeus, because he imprisoned him. But then again, I think everyone hates Zeus, so you know that's not really a unique thing. But from that point forward, he has killed gods, he's imprisoned gods, he's taken their powers and all sorts of other things, and it's up to you, Phoenix, to be the sole mortal that comes out and fixes everything and saves the day, even though Zeus claims that you can't do it. But again, we've established that Zeus is an asshole. Speaking of Zeus being an asshole, that's kind of how the entire story is delivered. Is Prometheus and Zeus are having kind of a cranky uncle who can't get the last beer exchange back and forth over how Phoenix came to be, how she, in my case she, came about with her powers and her abilities and her fighting prowess and all those other things, and how she as a mortal saved all the gods up on Olympus. This is actually, in my personal opinion, kind of jarring and annoying, strictly because the way that it's delivered is with Zeus and Prometheus being the narrators of the story. But Zeus is very much that annoying as fuck nephew you have that when you're in the middle of trying to tell a story, just keeps interrupting you. They keep stopping you saying, no, I want to change this, or no, it goes like that, or, well, I don't like this part of the story. Well, this is boring. Can't you go past this? And there were multiple cases where I literally just wanted to knock the piss out of Zeus, because I get the idea of it's supposed to be humorous, it's supposed to be funny, but if that's not your style of humor, it's really just grating more than anything. And I fall in that category, unfortunately, of people who I listen to this type of slapstick, oh, I've got jokes for you and blah, 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 and I'm going to interrupt you and type of thing. And there were multiple times where I audibly sat at my desk and said, Zeus, if you could just shut the fuck up, that would be great. But barring all of that, the story itself is very clean, concise, straightforward. Again, you're immortal, your task is to help save the gods, and you hang out with the help of Hermes, who shows you the ropes of how to level up, how to change your gear, how to upgrade, and everything else around the sun. At which point you use the tools at your disposal and you go forth and you save the Olympian gods. It's not to say that the story itself is like the worst thing ever, it's just the way that it's delivered is what I'm not a big fan of. But that's perfectly fine, that's not a big deal, because when we're all done talking about it, we're going to go ahead and talk about all the things we care about, which is the gameplay, the visuals, and then we'll come around with some thoughts about sound and whether or not you should buy this game. My advice to you would be ignore Zeus and just play the game. Just ignore Zeus. The rest of it's fine, but Zeus is annoying. So as you can see here, we once again come through with a mountain of accessibility options, from your standard HUD, contrast, brightness, and everything else, down to a really nice and well thought out colorblind filter, which we've seen this before with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I didn't highlight in my video, I don't think, because I just kind of mentioned that it's the same idea, but we definitely saw it firsthand in Watch Dogs Legion. Everything down from menu narration all the way to a mountain of languages. This way it's accessible to as many people as possible, because you know that's something that makes gamers angry, is having as many people play the game as possible. Speaking of making gamers angry, there is a really nice, rigid, difficulty slider. Well, not slider, but it'll actually give you 5 different settings. The first one being story mode, where it's exactly what you would think it is. You go into it and you want to just experience the story. Enemies are going to be fairly simple, easy to deal with, and you get a lot of things actually just taken care of for you so you can get through the story. All the way up to easy, normal, hard, and then nightmare. This is almost like the idea of they want to make sure that whatever you're looking for in the game, you absolutely have access to it. I actually did my game on normal, and I found myself kind of going through everything and saying, it could be a little bit harder. I think I might have KO'd once because I was in an area I had no business being in, and was like, okay, severely underleveled, got it. Wasn't really expecting to be able to create my character, but you know, that's a nice little touch that I could make my Phoenix black with a side cut, or black with a ugly ponytail like my real life hair. I could even make her with a beard if I felt so inclined. So it was really, really refreshing to be able to see that even though this is based around the Greek mythos and everything around that I could, you know, actually be a black person. But I digress. I'm always going to be an advocate and a big fan for when I can make my character look as much like me as possible. Now, going into some of the combat, I do want to make it clear that the combat is fun, but it is not extremely in-depth. It's very, very simple, straightforward, easy stuff. You have your typical dodge, which gives you kind of like a slowdown period for whenever you make a perfect dodge and gives you some free hits. You can see here that we also have a parry mechanic, and with the parry there's actually 2 indicators. If it's blue when it parries, that's a perfect parry that allows you to actually stun them for a brief moment and get in a couple of extra hits. But if it's still yellow, you'll just deflect the attack, which means that in both cases you won't take any damage. You're going to have a light attack, which is with your swords. You're going to have your ranged attack, which is with your bow and arrow. And then your heavy attack is always going to be with your axe. And those are going to be the main 3 things that you're doing. Now, in terms of skills and utilizing different play styles, and the general combat is going to be the same across the board. But where it really shines is the bonus skills like you see here with the airy spear, along with things you can get later like your own Phoenix, although they call the Phoenix Phosphorus and we don't talk about it, probably because my name is Phoenix, you know, it's Phoenix and Phosphorus, funny type of thing. But along with things like Athena's shield, and then your ability to carry things later on is with the Heracles gauntlets. This allows you to carry things around and lodge large rocks at enemies if you feel so inclined. Everything when you're in the middle of combat, flying, traveling, and whatnot is going to be based on the blue gauge you see here, which is currently red to the left side of your character, and that's your stamina. Your stamina is going to indicate how long you can fly, how long you can actually go through and do additional moves and everything, and also comes back whenever you're attacking. Now you can see this guy has a yellow bar underneath him, and that's his stun meter. All of the enemies in the game have a stun meter, which allow you some free hits and some bonus damage whenever you fill it up. Whenever you get to some of these legendary bosses, bigger enemies, and people who are just damage sponges, the stun is going to be absolutely critical to your gameplay ability. As always, you're walking around, you're beating the crap out of people, things, and stuff who want to end the world, because of course they do, and it can't be a pleasantly twisted video without talking about how at the end of the day, yes, you're correct, you're saving the world, but also there's the loot. A lot of the boxes in the game are going to give you things that you need for crafting potions, crafting different materials, and then also will give you equipment. But the equipment is not going to give you numeric values saying, hey, this is better than this because, you know, this bow is 8 damage, whereas this bow here is 20 damage. Instead, it's all going to be very much an aesthetic thing, and then they'll give you specific perks. So you saw there that one bow had better damage on it just for using it, whereas a different bow gave you bonuses depending on if you were in the air while you were shooting. We do need to make a brief mention, unfortunately, of the fact that there are microtransactions. However, I do want to at least go ahead and say that on the plus side, they are all absolutely cosmetic. But I'll be honest with you, I had absolutely no interest in even trying to get them or looking at them, because everything in the game, in terms of the aesthetic and me walking around beating the crap out of people, looked fine. It looked perfectly fine. The other thing is, a lot of people kind of jokingly say, oh, it's like Breath of the Wild, and it's like Genshin Impact because you can climb a wall. Can we go ahead and just bury that, please? Because literally you're climbing a wall. That is not a unique feature. That is not something special to these games in particular. It is just you climbing a wall. But that being said, I can climb literally anywhere damn near. The only time that I couldn't climb somewhere is if I went up on a ledge and I noticed all of a sudden that there was an overhang that went over me, and Phoenix was just like, nah fam, I can't actually defy physics the way that you want me to there. Physics on the arrows, yes, absolutely. Physics and I just clip the walls, no, not so much. everything that you do in terms of upgrading your characters is going to be in the Hall of Gods, and this is where you turn in carrying coins to get different abilities or different things upgraded for your armor sets. You go in to make additional potions here. You can also change your character's appearance at any given time. So you'll look throughout the video, my hair is red, my hair is white. At one point it's a French braid. I think at one point I had like the punk spikes as well. I just change it because I can, and it's free, so who the fuck cares. You can also go through and change up your weapons so that you can get better attributes on them. This way you can see that you can raise the damage on your weapons overall, and then the perks that come with them will depend on how much you've leveled them up. The way that you do that is using items that you pick up in the world. I forget the name of the actual crystals, which is perfectly fine. You'll know them when you see them, but you have your yellow crystals, red ones, blue ones, purple ones, all of which kind of operate as currency explicitly to level up your gear, your skills, and everything that you need to be successful while you're out and plundering in the world. And as you can see, there's plenty of world out there to go forth and explore. You can explore everything right away. Just be forewarned that if you go somewhere and things are too high level for you, the game is not going to gate you from it and say, no, 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 don't go here. You'll just know it because when you show up, the enemies will have a certain type of bar around their name to let you know, hey, if you go here, you can. Just understand that you will probably get hit once and you will be proper fucked up. Another thing that I haven't touched on yet that's going to come up here is we have daily quests along with weekly quests, and then the Hermes heroic task, aka Hermes is a lazy sack of shit, so here's his laundry list of stuff he wants you to do. Even though he could run around and do it, and he'll even tell you as much himself, but you know, you got to find some way to keep you busy, I suppose. But the biggest thing that I really like about the gameplay is actually the puzzle element. Now, I know that there's going to be a few people who say, well, why are there so many puzzles in my action-adventure style game where I get to run around and be a demigod, more or less? Well, the puzzles actually serve a lot of really good purpose. I think that they're fairly entertaining. They're not overly difficult. Even the highest tier, quote-unquote, 3 marked ones are not things that make you go, oh, I need a guide. I can't figure this out. I'm not going to be able to do this and get it done in a timely fashion. They're things that might just challenge you to think about different ways to use your capabilities. It'll also put you in a position to learn to use your capabilities, which I think is very, very useful. Especially considering the fact that if you're like me and you just kind of jump face first into things, you'll be prone to forgetting, hey, what was this thing that's bound? What's going on here? How should I do this? The puzzles serve as a very useful and absolutely vital tool to helping you say, oh, you got the Heracles bracers, let's put you through all of this, and you're going to learn how to use them very, very well. Because the puzzle that comes up, some of them are going to be story related. You'll go through and you have to use them to push, to pull, to roll things around, to actually pick things up and throw them across the map to the next location that you're going to be at. And you'll get that with every single thing you pick up that's part of your core kit. I actually just included this because I wanted to showcase that if you try to kill animals, it actually won't let you do that. It just turns them into a cloud of dust to say, okay, no, that's not what you're here for, but I digress. So as you're doing all the puzzles, you can also see that you'll do the puzzles and there's bonus boxes for you for every single puzzle. So if you look in the background there's an orange light shooting straight up. That is actually a bonus box that it's not required for you to leave the location, but if you can figure out how to get to it, then there's just going to be more materials, more currencies, and possibly even new items for your character to put on and try out. Now, I mentioned before that you go to the Hall of Heroes to level up everything. Specifically when it comes to leveling up your health and your stamina, you're going to use Zeus's lightning for stamina along with ambrosia for your health. And you can see here that you have what's called Aphrodite's Embrace. You get something for every single god that you rescue, and they all have 3 things that they can unlock as you're helping them. All of this kind of melts together in a nice little formula that allows you to go forth and conquer all of these wraiths, these assholes like Achille the itchy foot fuck here, and save everyone from the wrath of Typhon. I think that they did a really good job of keeping everything put together, and I actually applaud them for choosing to keep it simple as opposed to bogging it down with multitudes of things, saying, okay, well, here's your crafting, and here's your different thing that you have to put together, and now you have to manage your durability, and by the way, if you don't have this certain thing, then you won't be able to get access to other things. It works out really well because they do an A+ job handing you everything you need at the baseline to go out and actually be successful in your conquest of everything going on in the game. I think that the gameplay is really fun. I think it's really engaging, and even though it is simple, it keeps you involved. It keeps you wanting to come back and say, ooh, I found this thing, but what about the thing over there? Oh, but I did this thing. So what quest opened up as a result? Well, maybe if I go do this other thing, I can level up and then I can go, and it just kind of cascades nonstop. There were multiple times I said, I need about an hour of footage, and then I looked up and it was 9 hours later, and I said, oh, well, I guess I have enough footage for, several things, and now I'm going to waste time trying to figure out what I actually want to showcase to everybody. All in all, the gameplay, it's really fucking strong. I really like it. Now, in the past, I have, and I think rightfully so, maybe you disagree, I don't care, but I have had to drag Ubisoft because at first I said, these characters look nice, and then I got to Valhalla and said, no, actually these characters look like shit. And when we get to Immortals Fenyx Rising, it's kind of a mixed bag, because they go for a much more cartoony aesthetic, which works in their favor on the account of, you can kind of rationalize why their face might look fucked up, or you can kind of rationalize why their hands are cartoonishly large. It's cartoonish. But people aside, the actual game is just absolutely breathtaking. Like, there's no holding back on the color palette that is available here, because yeah, there's a lot of areas that's going to be really lush and really green, but even just the small details here and there in terms of things like, oh, but the bushes, they're not all the same thing. You have like the nice pink bursting colors of the bushes out here. By the way, you can destroy the bushes and might sometimes find cookies in them, and that's always a good time. But on top of that, it's just something that's really, really cool to look at. They do an absolutely exemplary job as well, making sure that they highlight the different themes and kind of thoughts behind each location that you're traversing. So the first areas you start out in are very, very heavy vegetation, very lush, very colorful. It looks like a thriving, beautiful, blossoming land, and then you're reminded when you're walking around in different areas that, oh, by the way, everybody has been turned into stone, and that's the reason you're here. It's because you're the only person that's like a person still. So you kind of have that very loud and glaring reminder that pops up that says, hey, everything might look really nice, but don't forget, keep your eye on the prize. You're here to save people. The indicators of when and if you're picking up stuff are super clean, crispy, and precise. You don't have to worry about standing over something, and this is something I dealt with a lot when I was in Valhalla, and specifically, I got so fucking aggravated trying to pick up things, and the indicator didn't know how to decide if and where I was picking up something. Like, it absolutely made me fucking bonkers. I don't get that problem in this game, and it's great, it's wonderful, it is absolutely A+. Everything is very clear and concise, and it says, this is what you're picking up. This is what you're revealing in your Farsight. By the way, I didn't mention that before. You can do Farsight and mark up the entire map prior to even going out and exploring, and kind of make your own little grocery list of things that you want to do. Which, again, people who have been on my channel know how I feel about grocery lists, and I kind of need my list to live my best life. But nonetheless, you can see here that even in the characters' designs and everything, they're nothing to really write home about. They're nothing absolutely stunning and invigorating. It just looks like kind of cartoon Greek folks. Another thing I want to take a moment to mention is when it comes to the voice acting. The voice acting, I'm not going to front for how actually nice the game looks. The voice acting is pretty turds. It's pretty turds. Yeah, I don't know if it's a combination of the weird accents that they went with for everybody, or if it's like the combination of Zeus just being annoying and this is Hermes being annoying in his own regards, or if it's a combination of the two. But what I do know is that whenever they talk, part of me deep down just kind of quietly lowers my volume, because my brain is going, you know, all of this is great. I'm just going to read the captions, and let me know when you're ready to go back to the part where I get to run around and open my wings up, fly, do cool shit, all of that good stuff. Because listening to you talk, kind of cringy in my personal opinion, but maybe people disagree with me. Doesn't bother me either way. I just know that for me specifically, it's not my cup of tea. But nonetheless, when you're talking about the entire package of visuals and sound, it's really also pretty damn strong. I know that some people have said too that they don't like the HUD, the way that it displays at the top where items are, but I think at this stage in the game, that's pretty standard across the board for many, many games of this nature, where you can mark things on your map and there's your distance marker, so let's go forth and let's find some stuff. As I traversed through the game, it just kept getting prettier. it just kept getting more aesthetically pleasing. And I know a lot of these games actually suffer from the idea of everything looking pretty much the exact same. But there was never a moment when I was playing this that I looked at something and said, wait, where am I? What's going on? Wait, hang on. Is this the same glade or is this a different glade? And you can see that the way that everything is kind of spanned out on the horizon, that it's really easy to see where you are and where you're supposed to be. I don't know if people caught a glimpse of it, but a few seconds ago, you could see in the distance the planetarium. The planetarium is one of the places that I started earlier in the game, and my file is at about hour 8. I was at the planetarium like 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago, it was a completely different character. That's how much it allows me to not just see what's going on the map, but also allows and promotes me to just run around and explore. It promotes me to go forth and look at everything that's happening and why it's happening and really take in the sights and realize, yeah, you know what? I really like looking at this game. I really enjoy it. You can see here we got Aphrodite on the tree, and that's its own kind of interesting conversation piece. Aphrodite is not Aphrodite, and it's weird, but I really like how she looks as a tree, if that makes sense. It might not, but, you know, she was pretty, and then she opened her mouth, and then the voices came out, and I was like, whoop, I hate everything again. There's no shortage of aesthetically pleasing things to look at, so you don't have to listen to the people, and you don't have to gripe about how they look, because the rest of the game more than makes up for it. It's pretty to look at. It's pretty to explore. It makes you and motivates you to want to keep seeing what is around the next turn, because it's all things that draw you in some way, shape, or form, be it because it's dead and decaying, lush and vibrant, be it because it's some wildlife you want to tame, maybe it's just another flower you want to pick, but all in all, the visuals do an absolutely top-tier job in keeping you engaged and wanting to see more that the game has to offer. So this comes down to what are my final thoughts, and honestly, if it wasn't evident already, I say play it. I really have been enjoying my time on it. It does everything just right, such that you find yourself enjoying the time you're spending playing the game and roaming the world that has been put before you. Yeah, the voice acting is kind of just grating, and yeah, the people are ugly. But those two items alone, I don't think are enough to warrant saying, don't play this, because I still boot this up. I still have a good time. I still want to upgrade my gear, and I still want to beat up stuff and sneak attack on things, and I still want to help Aphrodite, and I want to beat up all the wraiths and everything else. It just does a good job having fun. And I think that that's something that we don't get to enjoy nearly as often anymore. We always focus on how pretty is it, or how many features are in it. Immortals Fenyx Rising says, you know what? How about we just get out there and we just beat the crap out of things? Let's beat up some stuff, let's pick some flowers, let's chill and hang out, and because it does such a good job at it, I would say if you're considering grabbing it, you're not going to be disappointed. Again, thank you so much, Ubisoft, for giving me a chance to review this game. Y'all know my stance on all that stuff by this point. Don't harass the people who gave me the key. Don't harass content creators. Make sure you hold the people accountable who need to be held accountable. But until then, if you like what I do here, follow my channel, and I hope to see you again next time.